and welcome to another video. So today I am here to share with you my June TBR, or my to be read list if you aren't familiar with that acronym. I have my reading planner all set up here for the month of June. I have it dated. I have 2 readathons mapped out. I don't know how much I will participate in each, but they are there and I am aware of them. And if I am able to read books that apply to these readathons, then I'll do some participation. But these are not readathons that I am steadfastly committing to because I want to save my hardcore readathon energy for the July Bookie Trials readathon. So I decided to take June easy, but then these 2 came across my radar, so I decided to put them on here just so that they would be on my mind. The first is the Feel Goodathon. That is a 2-week-long readathon that has 10 prompts for reading and then 10 prompts for like self-care / daily life kind of activities. And I don't know how much I'll participate in that. 10 prompts, 2 weeks is a lot. So we'll see about that one. And then the other one is Camp Bookland with the Creating & Co book club. I might participate more in that one. I think there are only 3 or 4 prompts. So that one is looking more feasible for me. But I did not consider either readathon when putting together my TBR list because first and foremost, I'm just focusing on that list. And then if I have time to look at a readathon or if anything happens to apply, then I will count it. So there are 2 segments. I'm going to start with the books that I would really like to read this month. And then I'm going to end this segment with the 2 or 3 books that I'm hoping to read with my boyfriend this month because I have been doing a series of videos on the Wheel of Time series and how we're reading that together. So since those books are part of the books that I read each month and we kind of have a trajectory for what's the next several books we're going to read, I figured I might as well mention those as well because I'll be wrapping up any of those that we read at the end of the month. So I'm going to start with the physical books that I have from my list of things that I'm just going to read on my own. The first book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is a reread for me. I first read this book in January via audiobook on Script and I loved it so much. It took me a while to get into it, but then I finished the last like 3/4 in a day, 2 days maybe, and it was just so much fun and I really loved this book and I want to finish this series, but I haven't. And it's been long enough that I want to reread the first 2 before I read the 3rd. And then I thought that I would read them physically because I really wanted to be able to focus on some of the details a little harder than I know I did when I was just listening to the audiobook and also doing laundry or something like that. I really want to give the books all of my attention before I get to the 3rd book and finish it. So that's this book. And I think I'm only going to do the first book in June. I'll finish the others later in the summer, hopefully. The second book is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. So I am reading the Throne of Glass series and I have decided to read it in publication order. So that means that Assassin's Blade is before Heir of Fire. In May, I read Crown of Midnight. And so next would be the 3rd book, but this collection of short stories got released, so I decided to read these. This is technically a prequel. The stories take place before the events of Throne of Glass, and that's about all I know. As far as I'm familiar with it, it's a set of stories of Selena. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her name. But it's her as part of the Assassin's Guild group thing and some situations that she gets into as part of that. Also in June, I'd really like to get to Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. So this is a Sarah J. Maas heavy month just because I want to catch up on a couple of these series. I am finding that even though I didn't initially like her writing, I was initially disappointed by Throne of Glass when I read it last July. I don't know, I'm really enjoying them lately. It's very fun so far. Although Crown of Midnight did take a more serious and more interesting turn than I was expecting it to. So who knows what's going to happen in the rest of the series. And then the last physical book that I really want to get to in June is Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. So this is the Fairy Loot edition. This is the book that came in the March Fairy Loot box, and I really want to read it. It is about a bone crier, and supposedly bone criers help take people to the underworld, but the cost is that this particular bone crier is destined to kill the boy she's destined to love, or something like that is how the description makes it seem. I don't know much about it. I don't have any expectations for it. It's not necessarily one I would have picked up or sought out. There are plenty of books that I know about that I want to get to, but this was the Fairy Loot book, and I do try to keep up with my Fairy Loot reads so that I can justify the subscription. If I stop reading the books, then there'd be no reason for me to keep the subscription, and right now I'm enjoying both the subscription and most of the books that they send me, so I do try to read them as I get them, and this is the latest one. So also on my TBR for June is a carryover from May that I did not get to, and this is not a book I have physically. It is a book that I have as an ebook on my Kindle account, and it is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Renegades is also not a book I know a ton about. I wanted to read it because when the last book in the series was coming out, people were really hyping up the series, and Marissa Meyer is an author whose Lunar Chronicles series I really enjoyed. So I have good history with reading Marissa Meyer's work, and I wanted to continue reading her work. People have described it as a very superhero-y kind of book, and that's definitely seems to be where it's headed. I did read the first couple of chapters back in December of 2019, and then I just never finished the series. So this is the month that hopefully I actually finish it, because it's just been sitting there, and it bothers me that I started it even just a little bit in December and then never went back to it, because in my head it still feels like I've started it, and I have been starting it for 6 months. So I really want to actually finish that book. Additionally, because we are moving this month, I decided that I really wanted to have an audiobook on my TBR list, and this is good for like packing, mostly to listen to while packing, because I will be doing a lot of that this month. And I didn't know what to pick because I don't have Scribd anymore, and Scribd was my go-to place for audiobooks. However, I remembered that my boyfriend's family's Audible account has several audiobooks on it, many of which I'm interested in and haven't read. One of which is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, so that is also on my to be read list because I really want to have an audiobook, and I've been very interested in that series. I truly do not know a ton about it. I get it very much mixed up with Aurora Rising. The two covers look very similar to me. They're both like purple. I'm pretty sure that Skyward is the book about a girl who is like a fighter pilot, and she is kind of in disgrace because her father was labeled a deserter. So other stuff happens. No idea. I think it's a sci-fi novel though, which is interesting because I don't read a ton of science fiction. I do mostly stick into fantasy, and really that's it. It's just fantasy. So even though they're very close cousins, sci-fi is still slightly different from what I typically read. A bonus audiobook that's on my TBR list, but not necessarily a serious read. Like, it's not a big goal for me to get to this book, but I have it on here because it's one I do enjoy. And if I finish Skyward and I'm still finding myself doing a lot of packing and I need something else to listen to, I really want to get the audiobook version of The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. I read that book back in February, the latter part. I think I started it in January, but I finished it in February, and I love that series so much. It is the first book in the Lycanius trilogy, and I am 100% willing to reread it whenever, all the time. And so I thought that it would be a really good thing to listen to while packing, because then I can be more passive to it because I have read it before. So if it's something that I'm listening to in the last legs of packing and I'm just trying to get everything finished, I'm probably not going to be paying as much attention to my audiobook. And so having one that I have already read on my list and on my radar this month is going to make it so much easier to do that. So that's kind of like an honorable mention TBR pick. So there are a total of 6 books that I hope to read in the month of June, plus the honorable mention of The Shadow of What Was Lost on audiobook. Next are the set of books that I hope my boyfriend and I will get to read this month. There are 3. So the first of which is The Shadow Rising. We have already started The Shadow Rising, but we're barely into it, and over the next few days we'll probably get almost halfway through it, but enough that I'm putting it on my TBR as something that I want to finish in the month of June. The Shadow Rising is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series, and I'm doing a whole vlog series on that series, so I'm not going to go in depth in what it's about, especially because I think it's a series that's really nice to go into it not knowing what it's about. It's kind of this like grand adventure that you fall into head first if you don't know anything going into it. So I'm not going to go on about what it's about. I have a series of videos on it. You can look it up. I'll leave it there. The next 2 books that I'm hoping we'll have time for in the month of June, I do not have physical copies of, and we probably won't buy physical copies of. I think we will get these via ebook. So the first is A Storm of Swords by Andrzej Sapkowski. I think I heard someone pronounce his first name like that in a video earlier today that I was watching, but it is not a name I am confident in pronouncing, so if I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize. But it is a prequel book to the Witcher series, and I have no idea what that's about. None at all. Then the second and last ebook that I hope we get to read in the month of June is just to continue the Witcher series with Blood of Elves, which is the 1st book in the main Witcher pentology. I wonder if that's a word. I feel like that's a word. It's the main 5-book series. And I also have no idea what that's about, which is another reason why I'm very excited to read the Witcher books, because I've read the 2 short story collections, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, but I have no idea what's going to happen in this world to make a 5-book series. Like, Geralt doesn't seem to have a conflict. I don't know what it will be. There are political rumblings in the short stories and tensions between people and magical beings. But I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play out. I don't know what's actually going to be the main conflict of the series. So that is 6 books on my personal to-be read list and 3 books that I'd like to read with my boyfriend. 9 total books for June. I think it's very possible. I am doing a lot of packing and working to move, but I'm also not working because it is summer and I don't have a summer job or anything because I wanted to work on moving. And so all I really have is this YouTube channel, packing and reading. So I think that I will be able to get through this list. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you hope to read in June, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.